Welcome to the Interpreting Wine Hospitality Podcast. I am, of course, your host and podcast founder, Lawrence Francis. Welcoming you to this, my London Mezcal Week series. The series features brand ambassadors, authors, bar owners, and producers, and is the most comprehensive coverage I've ever given to a drinks category. And I think given the important time we're at in the evolution of mezcal, covers lots of the issues as well as lots of the great taste to be found within. So here we go, today's episode of the London Mezcal Week series. Today marks the 7th and final part of the London Mezcal Week special. But we go out in style as I feature Raza Zaidi of Wahaka Mezcal. Uniquely for this series, Raza is Mexican-born and currently living and promoting his mezcal in the United States. He tells us the Wahaka Mezcal origin story. Given his location, he's able to give us a real deep dive into the United States market. Recorded as it was during London Mezcal Week, Raza then makes a connection between the European markets that they're now targeting. And we finish up by talking sustainability and mezcal pricing. Enjoy.
Raza Zaidi, I'm one of the owner partners of Wahaka Mezcal. The company's been around now almost 10 years. There's two sides to the company. Obviously, there's a producer in Oaxaca named Alberto Morales. He's a fifth-generation mezcalero. He had a tiny little brand called El Huehuete, that he was never able to market outside of his little village, outside of Oaxaca City, about an hour outside of Oaxaca City. And then the other side is, we're four friends from elementary school in Mexico City. All of us, the four entrepreneurial side, we kind of had the same professional trajectory that after college we went to the United States, and worked professionally. Fast forward 25 years, and we'd all sort of settled in the United States, and they all went by in a flash, and we kept in touch a lot, and started lamenting that we were losing connection back to Mexico. No, so after 25 years, we our kids are sort of exiting college, and we find ourselves with a little more disposable income. So we said to ourselves, okay, what could we do to bring us back to Mexico? And that's after a few ideas, we came up with the mezcal idea. We started traveling to Oaxaca. And in 2009, 2010, when you traveled to Oaxaca, there was still only like 30 brands at that point, not like 550 or 600 that you have now. And so when you go to Oaxaca, the mezcaleros would come out of the woodworks showing you their products. And, Beto has a very wide open taste that we liked a lot. And also incredibly important is that, this company was going to, the idea was to build something that we were going to sell in the United States, because the commercial part, people all lived in the United States. So we wanted to make a brand that would serve as an introduction to the universe of mezcal, but we needed to work with somebody in Mexico that could work remotely, so the person has to, use email, do good Excel spreadsheets about, what are the cost of goods and what is the inventory of labels and bottles and corks and all that stuff, be able to run it remotely or virtually, really. And so Beto was that person, who was like, with his iPhone, on Instagram, all that stuff when we met him. And so okay, this is our guy, So that's how the brand was born. And as I mentioned, the idea was to do an introductory brand for the novice, for the uninitiated, I should say. And so the idea was, that's why we anglicized the word Oaxaca, and we spell it Wahaka, so that so that both American and British people, or English-speaking people in general, can pronounce have a sense of place, And the line of products, we have five main products, and the idea there was also sort of to give a little introduction to the universe of mezcal. So we have an espadín, which is the estate farmed, based off of the estate farmed agave. We have two wilds, a madre cuiche and a tobalá. Those are both from the lowlands and the highlands, respectively. So kind of in showing you that there's a State Farm, there's wild, and then we have a blend of the three. That's our fourth product, and the final one is the Espadín aged. No? So it's just a little universe of the world of mezcal, introducing consumers to how complex it is. And then if they say, "Oh, I really love these wilds," they can go explore the other wilds. We only use 2 wilds, and there's about 40. 40 varieties of agave that are wild now that we don't use, and so now you go explore all these other, and you start seeing these similarities between mezcal and wine. And also we have a blend, just like in wine you could have single varietals, and you can also have blends. So that was the whole intention. We've focused entirely on Mexico and the United States. I'd say we're in the top 15 brands, in worldwide, but with a focus entirely. We're very methodical, so we focus entirely on Mexico and the United States. And now that we've kind of, I wouldn't say conquered, but now that we've established a good foothold there, we're exploring Europe, UK, Germany.
So to me, it's super interesting. We're talking, I think you're the only person I'm talking to today here at the London Mezcal Week Fair on the Friday, who's actually based in the US. And from everything I picked up right the way through my association really with mezcal is that it's made in Mexico, but the most important market, the biggest market, the most diverse market in terms of brands is the US, certainly. So yeah, and I think it would be interesting, for you with the brand, with your, feet on the ground up there, talk us through what is the sense of how mezcal is being enjoyed there in the US in what is, as I say, the most advanced market outside of Mexico. Sure.
Yeah, I mean, what's been fascinating about the whole mezcal thing is that it's been the foothold was started really with the bartenders. The bartenders really started glumming onto this, and a lot of credit mostly to Ron Cooper, with Del Maguey and him sort of creating that awareness amongst them, and so the advantage about the bartender, of winning the bartender, is that it's sort of twofold. One is that they become very passionate and then educate the consumer, and so it's kind of come up from the ground up, as opposed to sort of big brands with big marketing campaigns. It's really been word of mouth from the bartenders. And the second thing that's also made it very interesting is that the Espadín variety is very, very, very adaptable to the cocktail world. And so, those same bartenders that really love the history and the process and educating their consumers about it also love the playfulness of the cocktail world, and so mezcal has also taken the cocktail world by storm in the United States, and so that's so those two things are very interesting. The fact that it really is not the big, huge brands, but these sort of grassroots brands that hand carry their products all throughout the country and started winning, and word of mouth spreading that mezcal's the next big thing.
And yeah, I think there's a perfect follow-on there, which is just to, we're sat here in London on a nice drizzly rooftop here at TT Liquor. Talk to us about the strategy then of kind of, not so much of breaking Europe, but, of getting across into Europe. Is it the same as what you've sort of tried and tested in the US, or are you taking a different approach based on perhaps your analysis of our different drinking habits over here?
Yeah, I think you hit on it with the different drinking habits. I think the UK is very similar to the United States and to Mexico. It's like serious drinking and a broad range, like a lot of, the beer culture in the pubs, and then the cocktail world, and then, with the influence of Scotch, drinking spirits neat is also very popular. So I think that the UK has very similar culture to both Mexico and the United States. I think that the more continental countries are more complicated. I mean, in the Mediterranean world, it's sort of like a vermouth on the rocks, sort of thing, and then then as you move further east, you have these sort of local grappas and ouzos and sort of so there's a rich culture of drinking spirits, but there's a lot of local stuff, and so mezcal becomes more and more unknown and more and more odd as you sort of seem to move east. I think also a lot of the awareness and sort of the way the mezcal market has taken shape in each country is very different. I think in the United Kingdom you have the advantage that Melanie from Kikiriki was kind of did what Ron Cooper did in the U.S., Melanie has done here. She single-handedly, obviously, brought her in her own brand, created this event, and it's a quality mezcal. And so the UK, the first big brand is a quality brand. And so then once the people start tasting that and they're like, oh, this is really good, and they then move on to other quality brands. In places like Germany, you have a bunch of sort of, not pure mezcal, more industrial mezcales that have made it into that market, and they've sort of miseducated the audience now. And so people in Germany will look at a quality mezcal, and then they're like, well, this one over here is €10. Why am I going to pay €40? And so there's a little more work, I think, for the sort of the collectively the mezcal, the quality, the artisanal, the traditional mezcal brands to create education there. Whereas in the UK, I think it's very well understood what the difference is between an industrial and a quality mezcal. No? So every country is different, and we have to. I mean, we're just starting to explore it. No, hopefully this year we'll close deals with importers and treat each country differently, as it should. There's no country called Europe. It's a continent, and you have to treat each one differently.
I don't often do this on the show, but I just want to kind of throw the door open because I know we don't have that much time together. Yeah, like what else is sort of front of mind, tip of the tongue that you want to share with the listeners over here in the UK and indeed around the world?
Sure. I think one of the things that's really important to understand is, why the price of the mezcal is so high, and it's important to understand that the industry is grown very rapidly and maybe going in through a bit of a crisis phase, So, for one, the agave spirits is the only spirit where the entire plant is destroyed to make the spirit, In wine, obviously, the vine keeps on giving and giving and giving. Corn, mash, even though you destroy it, it just grows right back in a few months, Whereas agave can take 7 to 30 years to mature, and to use it, it's destroyed, And so, and then the wild agaves are even more complex because if you use a wild agave to make a mezcal, it means it never reproduced. So entire species can go extinct if you overcrop them, So when we started this project 10 years ago, agave was costing us $1 a kilo, and now it costs 14 pesos a kilo because the demand is so high, and since it takes the espadín in particular, and that price was for espadín, that it takes 7 years to mature. So us as a company, 7 years ago, we didn't know how much we needed right now. And now, again, there's 500 brands all trying to use espadín, right? And so there's going to be a crisis in the pricing. The popularity also makes it that people with purely economic interests and not really understanding some of these sustainability problems of mezcal are jumping into the market and trying to use their personal brand name to make this spirit and make themselves even more famous. And that's going to cause a serious pressure on, again, the price of agave, the availability. And so it's important, I think, for everybody to understand that that the companies have a responsibility to replant for wild agaves, and consumers should understand when they pay £100 for a bottle that the reasons are is because we need to keep the price high so that the demand is not too high, and these wild agaves have a chance to reproduce, and we have a chance to plant more espadín to keep up with the demand. And then there's going to be some periods of, I think that there's going to be a lot of brands that disappear because of this crisis. And so just drink responsibly, I think, is educate yourself and drink responsibly, on which are the good brands that are really doing the right things for their people, their mezcaleros.
Yeah, I can only echo that because I think, again, linking back to the wine world, it's like, imagine if a vine took 7 years to produce its grapes, and then when she took the grapes, the vine died. It just really, I think, make that comparison. It totally, puts it into perspective for a wine drinker, and people even, they talk about people that make wine being crazy, because they only get one chance a year they only get one harvest a year, and when you look at the economics of things like beer or vodka or gin, even the production is basically anytime, anywhere, and any place. You can just sort of do it sort of whenever, and to me, I think the future of the industry depends and demands really that point is educated and is communicated across. And just to kind of finish, really, I guess an assessment and an idea from you. How well do you think the industry and all those that rely on it and want its continuing growth and sustainability, how well do you think they're doing it, kind of, transmitting that idea, that message that, look, this is a real labor of love, and, we need to sort of pay accordingly, and that even, arguably at £100 a bottle, some of these mezcals are probably actually cheap and underpriced.
Well, I think a lot of the companies are doing the right thing. I mean, Wahaka Mezcal, what we do is we have we purchase land, and then we grow the wild agaves from seed, and then when they reach about 4 or 5 years old, we take them out into the wild and reforest them. We do two reforestations a year, and then and there's other brands that do similar things. There's also projects that the government runs with some universities that are huge nurseries, like 100,000 agaves, 1 million agaves in some places in Puebla and eastern Oaxaca. So there is a consciousness, throughout the industry that this is becoming a problem. And again, obviously, all of us who have been here doing this for 10 years, you start when you remember when you were paying a peso on a kilo, and so all of us collectively also started saying, okay, it's important that we grow more agave, we grow more espadín, and we grow espadín from seed, but also from pups, and to keep the biodiversity. So I think there is a consciousness, but Mexico is and Oaxaca is the poorest city. Sorry, it's the second poorest state in the country. So there is work to be done, and collectively and as individual brands to educate. But I think it's each brand, each of the artisanal brands is doing what they can in that area nicely, and so. Just a matter of communicating it.
Thank you so much, Raza, for your time. I really love that the last conversation of the series was had with you, and that you were able to make that connection between the United States and Europe. It was also great to hear Melanie getting a shout out, who, along with Thea Cumming, is the co-founder of the London Mezcal Week. Do check out below for the Wahaka Mezcal website and main social media handles. And while we're on the topic of the London Mezcal Week, a huge thank you for Melanie and Thea for all your work. I think I can speak for everybody on the day that you put on an absolutely fantastic tasting, and that events like this are really important to the continued education and growth of the Mezcal fans. And of course, do keep an eye out for Melanie and Thea's Mezcal brands, Kiki Riki and Dangerous Dawn, respectively. As I mentioned, this does unfortunately mark the end of this special Mezcal series. It's been an absolute pleasure to turn over interpreting wine to all things Mezcal for the last 7 episodes. And if you've been tuning in as well, I would love to have your feedback. Please contact me on social media, where I'm at Interpreting Wine on Instagram and Facebook, at Wine Podcast on Twitter, or email hello@interpretingwine.com. A huge thank you to all the guests that are featured in this series, and see you next time.